Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the 6th turn of the Shadow Tech Goddess subtitled Cat, Part 2, Chapter 5, Buying a Black Hat. This is the penultimate chapter of the second part of the book. One more to go, and we'll be in Part 3. I'm pretty sure I'm not spoiling anything when I say that Aram and Alesta are the angels whom Kat speaks of with such reverence. We see in the previous chapter Aram and Alesta forced to choose from a list of names, a list of Kovas, extraplanar entities that in theory can serve as a replacement for the Merthig. Lady Gwendolyn was the Merthig. She was killed by a demon that stole the anatometer. And now Lord Belmont, who has yet to appear in the story, is suffering her loss, both emotionally and universally. His connection to her was quite tangible. And a Kovas can fix all that. And after looking through a list of literally thousands of names, Aram hit upon the name Kat. He remembered her in the ruins of Clovis in a different universe, in his universe, Universe 1. This is Universe 6. He remembered her as very powerful, very sinister, very agile, and that Lord Belmont was oddly fascinated by her, and that helped spurred his decision to pick her, and he convinced Lady Alesta that she was the way to go. So now, a problem with the Kovas, when you pick one, is a Kovas is not universally bound to the Kadar Gamein, to Lord Belmont. They're not. The Merthig is universally bound to this person, so they will find each other by themselves. In this case, they will not, unless inexplicable chance takes place and they happen to meet and happen to develop some sort of relationship. The odds of that happening are almost nil. They're there, but very small. Having picked Kat, they must now get Kat to Lord Belmont. Otherwise, all of this exercise is moot. And that's what we'll be covering in this chapter, Chapter 5, Buying a Black Hat. This is a shorter chapter. Shouldn't be more than 10 or 15 minutes in the reading. Next week with the final chapter, which is called Baked Chicken, of all things. So here we go. Let's dig in, shall we? Chapter 5, Buying a Black Hat. The small craft broke the line of angry clouds and wobbled through the rough air as it descended to the ground. It sweated curling streams of rainwater and soot from its recent re-entry, the water corkscrewing away from its aerodynamic shape. Down below, a sea of slate-colored water pounded the shoreline of a great continent, sending a steady stream of breakers and foam to the drenched rocky beach, one after the next. The craft leveled out at 1,000 feet and headed inland, passing over unbroken miles of olive, tumbled grassland, and occasional ragged trees. The air was rough, but the craft flew straight and steady with a deft hand. Down below appeared an area of leveled ground. The remains of a stone structure, possibly once tall and grand, with fluted columns and carved balustrades, peeked through the wild grasses, partially covered with weeds and flattened by the relentless march of time. The craft slowed over the level ground and banked, circling the ruins. Standing in the ruins was a solitary figure, wearing a shockingly bright scarlet robe, a black sash covering its face. The figure stood with practiced grace, arms crossed over its chest, hands nested in its sleeves. The ship landed a short distance from the figure, hatches open. 2 people got out, immediately saturated by the rainwater. The figure in scarlet didn't move as they approached. The rain came down in soaking streams, but not a drop touched the figure. All the rain fell around it, changing course, leaving the figure perfectly dry. The figure spoke in a strong, clear voice, easily heard over the rain and fierce wind.
"Welcome,"
it said in a staccato tone.
"You have arrived exactly as you promised. We appreciate such punctuality."
The 2 stood before the figure and presented themselves, a man and woman, dressed in League clothing. They were both of slight stature, the man in the suit, and a woman in a green brocade robe. The man carried a rain catcher, shielding the woman from the deluge. Her thick, dark brown hair was pinned up, the loose ends catching life in the wind. The size and shape of the figure in scarlet indicated there was a slender female under the sash and robe, though her voice was harsh and wiry, unidentifiable as belonging to a female.
"We understand you wish to buy the services of a black hat,"
the figure said. "We do," the woman in green answered, shouting to be heard over the rain.
"There are many black hats scattered across the heavens. Their temples are no secret. Their doors are open to any who wish to pass. We entreat you select one of those. This is a place of training and faith."
The man spoke. "We will not venture into the open door of a black hat's temple, for few ever come out again."
"And do you think death will not come for you here?"
the figure asked. Tendrils of shadow tech rose up out of the ground like headless snakes, dangling on a string, surrounding the man and woman in a threatening fashion.
"Death comes for us all,"
the figure in scarlet added. The man and woman showed no fear. "Indeed it does. However, here we are protected," the man replied. He reached into his coat and produced 3 silver cubes of fine workmanship. He placed the cubes on the ground around them in a triangular fashion. The shadow tech snakes struck, hissing, seeking their flesh. They penetrated the perimeter of the silver cubes and instantly collapsed into wet cinders. All that entered were obliterated. "You see, we are not helpless," the woman said. "We have the favor of the gods and access to their tools." The figure in scarlet considered that and seemed impressed. With a wave of her hand, the shadow tech creatures vanished.
"Are those centrils?"
"They are, and of the finest quality, worth enough to ransom this hellish place many times and again," the man said.
"How novel,"
the black hat said.
"You must have mortgaged your paltry souls for such rare celestial help. Very well. What do you want?"
"We are looking for a black hat to trawl the ruins of our ancestral holdings in the Viflands of Cana."
"Are you? It's not often we have visitors from the League looking to procure the services of a black hat. Such things are not forgiven by your beloved sisters."
"We are looking for clues as to the location of our ancestral fortune. The sisters have declared the area forbidden and offered us no recourse. We will have our fortune. We must take extraordinary action in this case, and we must have result. A black hat can surely get them for us." The black hat appeared disappointed.
"Such things do not interest us. Certainly some sailor or denizen from a lesser caste or League club could assist you. There are heroes in the League for hire, are there not?"
"And what of the shadow tech goddess? Does she not interest your mistress?" the man asked. The black hat thought a moment and changed her tune.
"The shadow tech goddess? What know you of this entity?"
"We know your mistress, the Black Abbess, lives in mortal terror of her." The black hat disagreed.
"Our mistress, the Black Abbess, is not capable of feeling fear. But please, go on."
"We have heard that information pertaining to the identity of the shadow tech goddess may be found deep in the darkness of our ruins."
"If such news is to be had, then we shall send a black hat of great power and repute to secure the information. Where is this information located?"
The man shook his head. We require one from this facility to go, and the location is secret for now.
There are naught but trainees here. Unfortunately, many shall not survive to graduate and strike out on their own. Such is the existence of a black hat. For every one that lives, hundreds die.
The figure awaited a reaction from the pair.
Does that distress you? Such nice league people. Such horrors you never need experience.
The man would not budge. We know full well of the brutality that takes place here, and, should fortune smile, perhaps the League will come in force someday, free all those enslaved within, and wipe this place clean. Until that happy day occurs, we want a black hat from here. The figure in scarlet also would not budge.
And what is your reasoning, please? As I said, we have naught but trainees.
Our reasoning? Should it not be obvious? The man said. We will not be having some full-powered black hat tyrant running loose on our ancestral holdings, giving lease to all things unholy, releasing STTs and creation knows what else, inviting discovery and reprisal from the Sisterhood of Light upon our household.
We do not fear the sisters.
But we do, and you ought to as well. We will take one of the wretched waifs cowering in the darkness here, else we shall take your advice and return to the League and hire some local hero to assist us. Your Black Abbess mistress will know nothing of what is found.
Think you to leave here with such information?
Shadow Tech demons came up from below in the smoky dance a second time, circling their protected perimeter, scraping, pecking, searching for a weak spot. The woman produced a silver rod from her robe and held it aloft. In an arcane vacuum, the Shadow Tech demons were pulled into the rod, while others were destroyed. The Black Hat was impressed by their display of the arcane and relented.
Very well. If you wish a trainee, we shall offer you 4. 4 shall ensure our mutual success.
4 is fine. We wish to personally select these 4. Figure in scarlet bowed with a flourish.
Our payment shall be weighty. First, we will have the information regarding the Shadow Tech goddess. And second, we demand those centrills you carry. Those are our demands. What say you?
You may have the information and do with it what you will, the man said. As for the centrills, you may not have these, as these are our protection. However, we can offer you others.
Others? More centrills? The measure of your wealth is astounding. We accept the payment.
The black hat vanished, leaving the man and woman alone on the stormy surface. Soon, the figure in scarlet returned, with a wave of her tiny hand. A 7-foot-tall conveyor belt made of shadow tech sprouted from the ground, with machine-like precision, and formed across the ruined platform. The conveyor came up from a passage leading down that went directly past the man and woman, and then went back down the passage again, making a rather large circle. The conveyor sported an assembly of sharp hooks dangling from shadow tech chains. It started moving, the hooks clinking together. Soon, smallish bodies clad in rags appeared from below and moved down the line in silent, efficient, assembly-like fashion, swinging from the hooks like slabs of skewered meat.
Here they are, fresh trainees on the hook. Aren't they tasty? Please, we have many to choose from,
the figure said. As the hanging bodies passed, they noticed the hooks were plunged into their writhing flesh, dripping blood. The woman put her hand to her mouth and said a few words to the man. He addressed the figure in scarlet. Must they be treated so? The figure delighted in their discomfort.
Yes, they must,
it said in a giddy voice.
We will not trot them out before you like giggling school children. Pain and suffering is what we have here. They would understand nothing else.
The little bundles of dirty rags came and went. All of them were small females, some not much older than mere children. Some appeared to be dazed and out of their heads. Some twitched in agony, breathlessly screaming. Others passively hung from the hooks, arms and legs dangling, as if nothing was happening to them. Ragged females passed, one after the other, each filthy and half-starved, each shadow-marked. The man and woman inspected them carefully as they passed. So many. Hundreds went by. "Will their wounds be treated?" the woman asked. The figure shook her head.
No, League Woman, they will not. Perhaps they will die. These are all crawler adepts, all threadbare and starving. Many shall not live to see the nightfall. All they know is pain and suffering, with the unlikely prospect that they might one day be granted the power to inflict pain and suffering on others. I notice from your actions you seem to be searching for someone specific. Is that the case?
"Yes," the man replied.
A loved one, perhaps, taken from your midst?
"No."
Then tell me what you're seeking. Tell me.
"That is our business." The figure in scarlet raised its hand, and a great basin of fire formed at the end of the conveyor, the upcoming hanging bodies to be dumped into it and burned alive.
Well then, we shall simply do away with the rejects. They are not good enough for the League. Then they are not good enough for us. Nothing is lost, we suppose. We shall replenish this school afresh.
The woman lost her composure and was terrified. She tugged on the man's sleeve. "Rami!" The first body neared the basin of fire, ready to be dumped in and roasted alive. "Stop!" the man cried. The line of bodies on the conveyor belt suddenly halted. The bodies knocked about on their hooks, their chains rattling. The fire basin remained unfed, demanding nourishment.
See one you like?
The black cat asked, interested. The man hurried down the line, inspecting each hanging body. Some murmured in pain as he passed. He said a prayer for them and continued. The woman moved along at his side. "Is she here? Do you see her?" she asked. "Not yet. I simply didn't want the others to perish in flames. This is a place of unimaginable cruelty. I knew it would be the case, but to see it—" He shuddered. They neared the end of the line. "What if she's not here?" the woman asked frantically. "Rami, what if she's not here?" "I don't know, Bear, I don't know." As they neared the end of the conveyor, the man stopped. High above him hung a bundle of filthy rags. A bare foot dangled out of the ends. Drops of blood came down in a steady cadence. He moved the rags aside and studied the woman beneath them for a bit. Then he pointed. "This one!" "Rami, are you certain?" the woman asked. "I am. It's her. It's Cat."
This one?
The black hat asked.
Why this one? She is a wretch among wretches, not even worthy to present to Sapphin sailors as bait.
"This is the one. Bring her down at once."
Very well.
The chain extended, roughly bringing the small body down to the ground. The man and woman sorted through the rags, like opening a present to get to the naked body within. Uncovered, the female was tiny and emaciated, her starving bones protruding through her taut veil of dirty skin. She was coated with layers of dirt and soot. She stank, enough to make their eyes water. Even in the rainy outdoors, her stench was choking. Her torn fingernails were black and clotted with blood. Despite all that, the man and woman tended to her as best they could, laying their hands on her tiny body. As a result, hints of snowy skin and whitish blonde hair appeared through the layers of grime. Her shadow mark stood out around her right eye. Streaks of hot blood from the hook pulsed down her back in steady ripples. "May we please remove the hook?" the woman asked.
Does it distress you that this girl is in pain?
The figure in scarlet said. "Yes, it does." The figure relented and the hook vanished, leaving a gushing hole. The man and woman tended to her. He removed his coat and pressed it against the wound. Her eyelids opened a little, revealing confused green eyes beneath. There was no hint of recognition or intelligence in her. Her mouth hung open in a flaccid O shape. The black hat burned with curiosity.
I ask again, why this one? She's smaller than most and weak. She's a poor tender of our mistress's shadow tech. My, doesn't she stink of all the pain we've inflicted upon her?
He double-checked her shadow mark. "This is the one," he said to the woman. He stood. "And I'll say again, our reasoning is our own. This is the one we want. We wish to take her with us this very day. She'll not endure your pits any longer."
You may not have her. She belongs to us. She will leave when we believe her to be ready.
Then we wish her healed and quickly sent to the place of our choosing.
She shall need training first. She is a wretched crawler.
Then train her.
You have 3 more to select,
the Black Hat said.
We insist upon 4 to ensure the information is timely gathered. Our mistress demands it.
The next 3 down the line, they shall do, the man said. The figure snapped her fingers, and the 3 fell to the ground, each a writhing pile of rags, arms, and legs.
We shall subject these 4 to an enhanced and rigorous training regimen,
the Black Hat snickered.
They might die in the process. Does that distress you?
This one cannot die, the man said, pointing at the girl at his feet.
She might die,
the Black Hat repeated flatly. The woman whispered in his ear, What do we do? She can't die. All of our preparations. The man stood tall. If she dies, you and your mistress will not have the information pertaining to the Shadow Tech Goddess, and nor shall you have our centrils. Let your mistress quake with fear at that. Therefore, it would be in our best interest if she lived. The figure in scarlet didn't answer. The man looked down at the girl's groggy face. He could smell her from where he stood. She won't die. I know she'll be fine. He leaned down and spoke into her ear. Be strong. You have much to live for. She blinked. Her green eyes moved a little. With that, demons in Shadow Tech smoke came up as before. The girl was taken away along with the other 3 they had just selected. Just remember, the man said, we shall be watching. The man and woman collected their centrils, returned to their ship, and took their leave, both of them heartbroken at the terror of this place, and fearing for the tiny girl they had just saved from the fire. You have much to live for, he had said to her. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 5, Buying a Black Hat. We have seen this played out from Kat's point of view, and now we've seen it played out from Aram and Alesta's point of view. Aram and Alesta, the angels of mercy, Kat remembers so fondly. She remembers the color of Alesta's robe, and even though she seemed to be insensate, she was fully aware of what was happening around her. She could feel the pain in her back, but she was used to that sort of thing, and she could endure it with remarkable aplomb. We see that Kat's eventual sisters, Bird, Walker, and Wheel, were just afterthoughts. They weren't really in Aram's Alesta's thoughts at all. They were just 3 more that they picked, although Aram and Alesta took steps to care for them as well, as they provided enough food and clothes and other essentials for all 4 of them, even though Wheel went down into the depths. Alesta and Aram were armed with central cubes, very powerful, that even the Black Hats in their own fastness couldn't defeat, and with the arcane baton that allowed them to capture Otacon demons. So there's Chapter 5. We see Aram and Alesta selecting Kat. Now we go to the final chapter, which will be next week, Baked Chicken, which is the final chapter in Part 2. And here we see Aram and Alesta having to actively campaign for the decision that they made. They allowed their search for the Kovas to go into the dark, meager places. A goddess like Aetha would never have thought to look. She would have picked something more grand, a notable name from League Society. There were sports players, there were sisters on the list, ship captains, people from the highest society, from the best of places. Looking in the Black Habis's pits would probably never have occurred to Aetha. And we'll see what her reaction is when she actually sees Kat and this choice Aram and Alesta made, and to see if she's happy or not with this selection. We'll find that out next week as all this comes to a head as Part 2 concludes. Anyways, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.